Hello and welcome to Kelly's Anesthesia Tips. Today I'm going to hit a topic or mark one off of my list that was requested and give a little bit of a bonus one for some resources. So I was asked to assist with some documentation for clinical staff. So I'm going to give a few different resources because there are so many out there and we're all familiar with the ASA or the American Society of Anesthesiologists resources in their statements and guidelines and such. But just so you know, there are other resources for anesthesia and pain management documentation requirements. So I'll share some of these resources with you, and as usual, I will post it in the comments so you can link to it. And just because, and I'll share a few, but this particular one we're going to start with is Noridian. And it covers many states, not just California, Hawaii, Nevada, etc., but that's jurisdiction E. So there are other jurisdictions under Noridian, and even if you're not from Noridian and your state Medicare administrative contractor does not offer something like this, these are still good guidelines to use just because they're accurate and they're from a reliable resource. So let's start with Noridian. And I'm not going to cover all this, but I'm just going to scroll down it slightly because I'm going to give you a Kelly anesthesia tip right in the middle of this one. So for their anesthesia and pain management documents, documentation requirements, they do have expectations. Some of them are just, you know what they are. You've got to have the name of the patient, the date of service, who the provider was. It does say on each page of the submitted documentation. So sometimes when you are asked to submit documentation, you may want to check to make sure that if this is like a hospital inpatient, that each page of it does have that patient beneficiary information on it. All right, so as I said, some of these are standard, the pre and post for anesthesia, operative reports if they request them, history and physicals, that is your pre-anesthesia assessment, etc. Now, when they're looking for the vital signs, records, etc., you're typically looking for that graph or the electronic pages of the graph. A hint here is don't overwhelm with documentation. Be succinct with what you send in when they're requesting, and don't provide more than is being asked for. So pay attention to what they're asking for. Now, when I say I'm going to have a tip inside a tip here, I highlighted list all non-standard abbreviations or acronyms used, including definitions. This might not be something you think of just, as a run-of-the-mill type of thing, but I want to remind you that I do have a YouTube on that. And how do you know? You can go to the channel, type in acronym, and back in May, I did a quick video, 8 minutes, 21 seconds, on acronyms and resources. So if you don't have a standard list, that might be helpful for you. All right, let's close this one down and look at some of our other resources. Novitas, covering some of the eastern states, DC, Delaware, Maryland, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. Again, this is Medicare jurisdiction JL, so Novitas does have some other states. This doesn't look exactly like the other one does, but they're giving you some clues too to make sure that when you're sending in documentation, you make sure it's for the correct beneficiary. Again, that should be a no-brainer, but I'll tell you from an auditing perspective that sometimes I find pages that do not belong to the patient in the file, and that can happen. You can scan to the wrong one, so just make sure you're checking all of that and don't send something you don't have authorization for that particular patient for. You don't want to mix records. Tip here, they give you a hyperlink over. Let's follow it real quick because they have signature guidelines. I may have done one, but since I shut down my YouTube, I'm not going to go check. If not, I can do that in a future one. But signature guidelines are, oh, that takes you to the integrity manual. That's not a good link. Because I do know, well, let's check. I'm going to show you my trick. Control F to do YouTube on that. Let's look for signature requirements. Okay, it's in here. I was looking for that succinct 1 to 2 page one that tells you what you're supposed to do. So let's go see what they have here. They've got you a link, but there are other resources that don't bury it in the middle of 108 pages. So it's a valid link, you just have to look for it. Let's close that one down. Now, notice here under the checklist from Novitas, they want to make sure, and I see this question all the time about maybe you're getting denials and you didn't receive denials before. Well, maybe something has changed, and maybe they're just looking at some other state's local coverage determination, or they got a memo from someone that says, let's start looking at these better. We still have those integrity checks, be in the background of all of this. And here I'll do my standard plug for importance of going to anesthesia meetings and staying on top of all of these type of things. So here we're going to go down and look, and they give the disclaimer that says it's made to assist you, but it's not a replacement for requirements published. So if you have local coverage determinations, and let's just pluck TEE out of the air because I've been working a lot on some of those lately. For TEE, you might have some documentation requirements. And then a tip here is to make sure that all of the providers know what those documentation requirements are. Because sometimes you'll look at records and you'll see TEE documented one way, and then for one of the other providers, you'll see it documented another way. Or you might not have all of the correct documentation. Those are those spot checks you can perform in your own offices, or if you have an external auditor reviewing, those are the type of the things they look for to say, we have some inconsistencies here. Very important that the provider identifies on those TEEs, whether that's for diagnostic purposes for the TEE or monitoring, and that the information is consistent. Now I have a tip for our CRNAs out there, because the AANA has published over the years quite a few of these. I'll show you, because they have like a little thing at the end that tells you that it's been updated several times, but we'll use the trick again to get back to it. So version 1 was in August of 2017, and the last time they updated this was December of 21. But it does really have some good information, some good documentation tips here, and things to help you with like time reporting and things like that. Documentation is, something that you just can't get away from. So when you ask about documentation for clinical staff, there's plenty of resources. I've shared 3 this morning that didn't come from the American Society of Anesthesiology, or ASA, the American Society of Anesthesiologists. We have other resources for that, and as I said, I'll upload them now. All right, well, you have the links for that. Now I said I was going to throw in a little bit of a bonus. Let's see, try to keep these short. So the bonus is resources. Because anesthesia resources are so difficult to find, I keep running lists of them. And I have been asked recently, and then I notice on our anesthesia coding and billing Facebook list, but I don't have this anywhere on my website. I might update it. I'm not sure. One of the reasons why I hesitate is because these are just when people ask me, I'm like, okay, I've seen this company. I may not know how they do, but I've seen them at our meetings. I pick up their cards. Those companies who come to support the anesthesia meetings are the ones that, I'm putting on these lists too. And then friends and colleagues that I've met, and I'll even tell you, I'll scroll down here in a minute, when people retire from anesthesia, I reach out and I say, are you like really retiring? Or are you looking to do something different? Because they have so much knowledge that they take with them. So some of those people are on this list as well. Well, the reason I haven't uploaded it to my website is because it may change, and I don't want to keep going back and changing it. So if you need things like this, shoot me an email. I'll try to try to help you. Why coding help? Because if you have someone out on maternity or sick leave or whatever, you do not want to not code your work while they're gone. Been through that, actually. I ran a whole office by myself at one time, and it can be overwhelming because I was responsible for every bit of it. I took home boxes of work, and that's not an exaggeration. So if you need coding help, here are some resources. I give either the website or a LinkedIn or a way to find them. Again, I'm not telling you that these companies are the best there are. I'm just trying to give you options. If you have someone or you know someone that you want me to add to this list and their anesthesia knowledge, well, I'll be happy to. And I'll update that list from time to time. But like I said, if you're looking for help, here's some places to find it. Anesthesia auditing. I just shared this one today. And I reorged to make this alphabetical because I do try to be unbiased in absolutely everything that I do. That's the fair way to me. And you'll notice that I do not have any billing company auditors on here because it's very hard for me to understand how someone who has a billing company could maintain that level of non-bias when, of course, they're a billing company and they do that type of work. These companies, they just do auditing. Some of them, you may be familiar with the names. I said I checked with retired people, Christy Mack, Sandy Peters, both longtime anesthesia people, been in the field for, I don't want to guess, but I would say well over 25 years for them. Melanie, I just saw this one today. She's over 30. And, these are good reputation people. So I do try to keep that last update. I just did this today. It's nice, fresh, and clean. And then I added something here when I alphabetized. So for practice management, that's a little bit different than your coding or your billing or your revenue cycle audits, because these are the type of practice management that come in and tell you, oh, our utilization or staffing. And I'm not going to say that your other consultants can't do that. I'm just saying that these are exclusively for those types of it. So when you're looking for practice management, I have an alphabetical. Martha Kelly, been in it a while. Daniel Prevost. I just added him today because I saw on LinkedIn that he had branched out, and again, many years. Sheena Scott, how can you be in the industry and not know her name? So Andrew Woodmancy, found him on LinkedIn, met him at several meetings. And then I have alphabetical order, the anesthesia attorneys that I know. Why is it important? Because anesthesia is a language that not everyone speaks. So you want to make sure that if you're doing anything that's related to your anesthesia practice, that you work with people who speak the language. All right, that is it. I will upload these resources. This isn't on my website, so if you need something like this, shoot me an email. It's very easy for me to attach it back to you, and I'm happy to do that. You know how I end it, so let's close with be kind to one another, generous with your knowledge. You all know that I am like pro supporting anesthesia meetings. I'm literally caught up for a small moment in time here, and I'm going to start working on the PowerPoints for our December virtual with decision help. I try to keep track of the names of all of these, but you guys know if you go to my website, all the meetings that I know about, they're on there. If I'm speaking at them, they're under speaking engagement. Oh, did I add this? I think I just received an acceptance from the ASA one. So let's go see. I haven't done it yet, but it'll be on there soon. So these are the ones that I know I'm speaking at. Again, if you have something you want me to add for this seminars education tab, reach out, let me know. Otherwise, here we go. We've got the advanced DH seminar coming up. They do several different specialties. We have the ASA at the Gaylord. Long timers know that was our last place for the AAA, so that'll be a little bit of a deja vu. And then as soon as I have the dates for the AIAB PM, rumor is it's sometime in April, so just jot that down just in case. All right, you guys, see you next time.